Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a business model that, on the surface, sounds absolutely insane. Letting your customers decide what to pay you. It's called Pay What You Want, and it's a strategy that can be a total game changer or, a complete disaster. Let's figure out which one it is. All right, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll break down what Pay What You Want actually means. Then, we'll get into the one rule that you absolutely cannot break if you want this to work. We'll look at some fascinating real-world examples, some rebels who tried it. And finally, we'll pull back the curtain on the real strategy here, the Trojan horse. So, what is this all about? Well, at its core, the entire model is built on one simple and, frankly, kind of wild question. I mean, it sounds bonkers, right? Why would any business in their right mind just hand over all the pricing power to the customer? But you'd be surprised at some of the big names who have actually given this a shot. So the power dynamic gets completely flipped. The business basically puts its product out there with what amounts to a donation box and just has to trust that people will pay what they think it's worth. And right there, that's the huge, glaring risk. A customer can get all the value you're offering and give you zero in return. For most companies, that's a gamble that just seems impossible to win. So how can any company afford to take a risk like that? Well, there's one fundamental rule, a sort of law of physics for this model that makes it even remotely possible. This is the absolute key. It has to cost the company basically nothing to add one more customer or deliver one more product. Think about a digital music album, not a physical car. If every new customer costs you real money, this model just craters instantly. This chart lays out the battleground perfectly. Over on one side, you've got digital goods, the potential for huge volume, and customers with some cash to spend. That's the sweet spot. But on the other side, high product costs and a market that's strapped for cash, that is a recipe for total failure. Okay, theory is one thing, but let's look at some companies that actually went out there and put this controversial model to the test in the real world. You might have heard about this one. The comedian Louis C.K. is probably one of the most famous examples. He used the Pay What You Want model to sell digital recordings of his stand-up specials right from his own website. Now, for Louis, this wasn't just about making as much money as possible on each sale. No, this was a statement. He was actively fighting against the established Ticketmaster system, which he felt was really unfair to artists. This was his way of building a direct line to his audience, getting his work out to more people, and really branding himself as an independent creator. And then you have a totally different kind of example, the ride-sharing giant Lyft. A lot of people forget this, but when they first got started, they actually ran on a donation model. But unlike Louis C.K., Lyft's motives were, let's say, less about artistry and a lot more about aggressive business strategy. Sure, the donation model was a great branding tool, but more importantly, it was a pretty clever, though ultimately failed, attempt to get classified as a non-profit, to dodge taxes. It was a way to just storm the market and go after Uber. But it had a real downside. A lot of early drivers reported getting paid $0 for really long rides. But here's the thing. Maybe the most famous and definitely the most profitable example wasn't really a Pay What You Want model at all. Let's look at how Priceline took the concept, gave it a twist, and built an absolute empire. See, Priceline's famous Name Your Own Price tool wasn't a donation box. It was a super structured reverse auction. You couldn't just offer $1 and hope you got a 5-star hotel. No way. There was always a minimum price, a floor, and your offer wouldn't even be considered if it was below that. You named your price, and they went to see if any of their partners would take the bait. And the results of their controlled, constrained version of this model were just staggering. This wasn't some cute marketing gimmick. It was an incredibly profitable business engine. We're talking about generating close to $1 million in revenue per employee. It just goes to show you what can happen when you add some smart rules to a radical idea. Okay, so this brings us to the real heart of the strategy. If pure Pay What You Want is so risky and often fails, why do companies even bother with it? And the answer is that the model is often a Trojan horse. It's a clever, attention-grabbing package that a company uses to sneak in other, much more valuable business goals right under our noses. See, this totally reframes the entire model. It's not really a pricing strategy at all. It's a marketing strategy. It's a tool for getting a ton of free press, for disrupting an established market like Lyft did to Uber, or for just capturing customer info so you can sell them to them later. And this quote just nails the long-term thinking. That first transaction, even if it's just for $1, that isn't the point. The real prize is your email address. The future value of being able to market to you again and again, that's where the real money is. So, in the end, the pay what you want model forces us to ask a really fundamental question about the world we live in. When it costs literally nothing to copy something, what is it actually worth? What do you think?